Hello, everyone, and thank you for making the choice to click in to chat with Trina. Tonight, I have a very special guest, Harris County Judge Laurie Chambers Gray. And she's going to talk to us tonight on two very important topics, the topic of early voting and the super important topic of voting in the local elections. Thank you, Judge Gray, for taking the time out of this busy schedule I know you have during election time to talk to us about these important topics. But today I have Harris County Judge Laurie Chambers Gray of the 262nd District Court. Am I correct?
That's right.
Judge, so she assumed office January 1st, 2019, and she is running for re-election now, yes?
That's right.
Yay.
Yeah.
So thank you for joining me because I know this is a busy time for you. So I really appreciate you taking a moment.
Well, you're welcome. I'm excited to talk about all of the issues that are now so prevalent. Thanks for having me.
You're welcome. And I want to just, again, I teased about Miss Cleo, but thank you, Miss Cleo, for giving me the referral to Miss Gray. I appreciate you so much for keeping me on task of what I'm supposed to be, one of the things I'm supposed to be doing. So we know that many people show up for national elections. They know the president and the vice president. They know that sometimes they even know about the governor. But I want to talk about local elections and why is that so important, if not more important than the others?
And that's a really good topic. I remember just growing up, and my mom was really involved. She was a community leader, community activist, and supporting voters get information about voting. And I remember one of the campaigns that she worked on was for the former Congresswoman, Barbara Jordan. I was a little kid, but I would follow her around and pass out the information. And the thing that they would always say, all elections are local. You'll probably see a local judge before you'll meet a congressperson or the president of the United States or the governor. And it's so important to know who is actually in your community, who is actually setting policy, who are the judges, who are the council persons, because those are the persons that you can actually pick up the phone and call when you have a problem. You won't necessarily have to go through a whole lot of people in order to get your message and your need heard.
So I want to mention also, we're doing early voting. Why do you recommend early voting? I always say you just never know what's going to happen on election day.
And that's a good point. There's a lot at stake, and so you want to plan on voting, and that's what early voting gives you an opportunity to do. You can look at the weather trends, if it's going to be raining, if you could possibly get off a little earlier and sort of plan your day so that you'll be able to take the time, exercise your civic duty, and not be so rushed, on the actual voting election day, which is for the primary, it's March 1st. So it gives you an opportunity to plan it, do your research on the candidates, and then get in and make sure that your voice is heard. And that's what early voting gives you that opportunity to do.
Can you tell us any of the things that we should be looking for in this election? Some of the, I don't know if there are any propositions or is nothing like that in this vote?
Right. So on the ballot, this primary, you have the governor. You have the governor, the lieutenant governor, the Texas Attorney General. You have the ballot is roughly 6 pages, about 5.5 to 6 pages long. So plan on just taking a look at the ballot, and you can actually print the ballot out and bring it into the voting.
I was going to ask that.
And that's really important when you have so many important elections on this primary ballot. And you can actually bring in, placards or information that you have about various candidates. But the one thing you can't do is bring your cell phone in. The cell phone, they will not allow you to use your cell phone. And I know a lot of you you millennials like to bring your technology with you. Use your technology before you get in, but it's old school paper once you get into the voting locations. And then there are a number of judge races, the judicial races are there, and they're all down the ballot. So there's a lot of particular offices that are on the ballot. I think land commissioner and some other state representatives and so forth are all on the ballot. Mm.
So, and this may be something that I don't know. So in this one though, do we have like propositions or anything? Is that in this type of election?
So and that's a good question. Mm-hmm. There are propositions on this ballot. It's actually the particular offices. So okay. So the constitutional amendments and things, bonds and so forth are not a part of this ballot. Gotcha. It's really important to spend time to do a little bit of the research on your own. A lot of the candidates, as I indicated, you'll find their names, you'll find them, their websites, all on the particular party websites. And that's a good place to start because you'll learn about the various offices and get a chance to take a look at the people who are currently sitting in those positions as well. And that may require a little bit more work, but right now it's really easy to go to the Harris County District Clerk's website, for example, and look at the various judicial, the courts and all of that. You will have all that information, judicial information on the website. And you could start there and then cross-reference back to who's on the ballot. And just start to do just a little bit of the research so that you can know a little bit about the various candidates. And then there's a lot of information. Probably a lot of people are getting the mailers in the mail, text messaging,
emails.
Email. Oh, yes, that's right. Emails. And so there's a lot of information that's out there on Instagram. And where you're on Facebook.
Yeah.
It's there.
We have to be careful about hearing our information from there sometimes.
Well, that's true. That's true.
Yeah, it is a great platform though for some things.
And what's a really good place to get information is all the various clubs and organizations, the local clubs. Are meeting, and a lot of the organizations are meeting on Zoom, just the way that you're meeting. And so it's really important just to do a little bit of research and find out the person that's actually sitting in the position or the person who's running for the position, and check out their social media platforms, and you can find out a lot about who's actually running. A lot of times people will say, well, why do I need to do that? Will my vote really count? Well, here's how I would answer that. Your vote absolutely counts, and it especially counts during the primary. So I'll go back and just talk about what the primary is, because a lot of people probably already know, but I'll just start there. So the primary election is the election where each party, and in this particular case, the dominant parties, the Democratic and the Republican Party, will determine who will represent the party in the general election. So A lot of people will say, well, I'll wait until the general election in November and then I'll vote, during that election. So, and that's typically what most people will do.
Mm-hmm.
The primary gives you an opportunity to weigh in on who will actually represent your particular party in the general election. So you could let someone else weigh in on it. But the thing about it is, a person could win with one vote more than the other party. So you might say, well, there's thousands of people, and they'll be voting, but it only takes the majority of the votes. And so that's very important, to know that your vote will actually matter, who will represent the party of your choice. And then when you advance to the general election, it will be whoever has come out of the primary and made it into the general election. And then you can
And
vote.
we've seen in the past, and not too long ago in the past, how one vote or a few votes can really have a big effect.
It absolutely can.
On what happened.
And I know, if you'll remember, the last presidential election, there were a lot of debates, there were a lot of candidates, and then it finally whittled down to Biden Harris for the Democrats. And so it took a lot to get there, but it took the input of the masses of people to get out and vote. And then when they voted in the primary, the candidates moved to the general, and then they met the Republican in the presidential election, and then the people voted.
Yeah.
So it's the same thing on the local level. On the local level, you'll have the judicial candidates, the parties who are running for governor, lieutenant governor, and so forth, all the various offices in the state of Texas. And then whoever emerges from the primary will meet in November. And then that's when a person can go in and vote either or both. It just really depends but it's not just one side of it. You will have Republicans who will vote, who have the opportunity to vote for Democrats, and vice versa if they chose to do so. I want to start by, I'm running for re-election, just to introduce people to who I am. I'm a native Houstonian. I went to high school here, HISD schools. I was introduced to debate in my high school, and that was really a turning point for me, because before that I had no idea about just the whole value of an argument, a logical argument, and how conflict is resolved in courts. And so I was able to, at a time when women were not lawyers, just to get a peek in what a legal argument would look like in high school, and then how to plan and how to prepare files and cases in order to be able to participate in what's called extemporaneous speaking, where you'll get a topic and then you have to, within so many minutes, form an argument and then present your side. And then have the issues and debate those issues in competitions. And so that was my introduction to the idea of law. And then I went on to University of North Texas, and I studied communication, mass communication, and journalism. And at that time, a lot of African-American women were just not lawyers. Yeah. And so when I graduated, I remembered hearing about a lady talking about going to law school. And I thought that was really interesting that, she was planning to go to law school and I was planning to go and find a job. And sort of wishing that I knew more about what that what it took in order to do so. So I got a job and I worked in media, various aspects of it. I worked in television, I worked in radio, I worked in newspapers, but it was always in the back of my mind. I did get a master's degree from Texas Southern University in media administration. So I continued to further my education, but it was always a nagging point in the back of my head. What does it take? And so I had the opportunity to meet an African-American woman who was on the board of the PBS station. And I told her about my little thought about one day going to law school or learning more about it. And she said, well, Laurie, if you apply, I'll write a recommendation for you. And I was like, really? And so I took her up on it and applied, and she wrote a recommendation, and I was admitted into law school. And I tell those that I know that I covered law school as a news reporter, because I had really no idea of the massive amount of investment in time, just everything in order to get through law school. So did that. Once I graduated, I thought that I would be a communications lawyer, work maybe for the FCC, because I really like regulations and things of that nature. But there was really an epiphany that I had one day when I was driving to law school. I went to South Texas College of Law, which is downtown in Houston, for those of you who are familiar with South Texas. And I saw for the first time a group of men chained together. They were wearing black and white striped suits, and two men with guns walking beside them. And I'll never forget it. I was captivated because they were moving them from one building to another building. And that was before this is in the 80s. Okay. So that was before they could walk them under the ground and transport persons who are charged with crimes without being seen by the public. And I had never seen anything like that before. And when I saw them, it was captivating. And I was thinking, oh my goodness, what brought them to this point? What are they doing? Why are these people being shackled with guns right in broad daylight? And it just wouldn't leave my mind. And so there was a pattern every day when I would drive the same route, I would see another group.
Oh, wow.
Shackled, crossing the street, and they were just shuttling them on. And at that time, I hadn't taken criminal procedure, crim law yet. I was, just getting, the initial classes done. But I just tasked myself with getting into the crim law, crim procedure, and learning more about what was happening. And so when I got into my third year, I applied for an internship with the Harris County District Attorney's Office because I was still wanting to learn more about what was going on. And I did get an internship, and I absolutely fell in love with criminal law and the idea of being a voice for those who had no voice, being super prepared to defend people who needed representation, and just really going back to that idea of organization, preparation that I had learned in debate, and applying that as a criminal defense lawyer. And that's what actually made me interested in criminal law, because it was just driving down the street and it was literally in front of my car. And
that's funny. Do you think that some of your media and investigative type. Is that what actually made you want to know more as well?
It was.
Yeah,
And that is
I was
true.
thinking.
And it's so interesting that you picked up on that, because we, as a journalist, will see a problem and then we'll say, okay, let me learn about it. And so that I can be able to understand what it is and communicate that to somebody else.
Right.
And so when I saw them, I became this journalist, like, I'm looking at you and you look young and you look healthy. Why are you here? Or you look
Right.
elderly. And what brought you here? And so
Yeah.
and I began to incorporate all of that into my thought pattern. And I want to know more about what actually brought them there. Because I'm thinking, no one ever wakes up and says, well, I want to one day be arrested and,
Yeah.
that's what I want to do and experience the criminal justice system from the inside out. I mean, most people are saying, well, I want to do something else with my life. They're not trying to see the inside of a prison.
Right, right.
But invariably it happens. And so that was compelling to me.
Definitely. My research for my master, no, my undergrad was on those who go into this system and when they come out, recidivism. I wanted to talk about
That's right.
right. I wanted to find out about ending that, because so many people, when they come out, they go back because they've been put into the same they don't have a choice but to go back into the same place they lived and those types of things, or they can't get a job. So sometimes that makes them go back. So I did a research on what we could do to help, you know what I mean? Because I was always interested in that. Why do people go back?
Yes.
And that's kind of where I found those types of things, what people don't go back, and then who do, so.
It's really complex. It's a very complex thing. I can just remember the younger a person is exposed to that institutionalism, the greater the probability that they will continue to involve themselves in situations that will lead them right back there. But if you're exposing them to opportunity and jobs and giving them opportunities to consider things that they'd maybe never thought about before, then it really lessens the probability that a person would end up going back. But it's so multi-leveled. I mean, mental illness is a large problem in criminal health, criminal justice system. At least a third of the persons who are in the system suffer from mental illness, anxiety, depression, bipolar, schizophrenia. In one of the courts that I sit on, in addition to the 262nd Criminal District Court, I actually preside over the competency restoration docket, which is a mental health docket. And there you get to do things a little bit different. For example, offer them opportunities for treatment, medication, look at housing and all of the other aspects that deal with mental illness. And Harris County has probably the largest mental health ward right there in the jail.
Wow.
And, cutting edge. They have doctors, they have sociologists, psychologists. It is actually an excellent resource for those who pharmacy and all of the things that are needed in order to
that's really good.
Diagnose and treat those with mental illness. I have a lot of respect for police officers. I have a lot of respect for our law because as Americans, we are truly blessed to have so many constitutional rights and protections. I mean, we're not perfect. Okay?
Not at all.
And I get that, but the laws are there and the people are actually trying to to do their jobs. They're trying to
Right.
make our
But having
city
some help and
safe.
assistance
Mhm.
would be so make it. I'm not saying, like you said, I'm not saying it's going to ever be perfect because it won't.
Right.
But I just think it would help so much if some extra funding would be put into getting the mental.
And it's interesting that you bring that up, because that's one of the initiatives I know that the city of Houston, I read about. There was additional funding now to support persons who are calling 911 in a crisis, and now they're having these teams of psychologists and mental health persons to actually answer the calls. And that's a new initiative that the mayor was talking about.
That's a
so just to be able to figure out if a person is in a crisis, and if it's a mental health crisis, the response would be a lot different than if it's a crime that's actually being committed. So just being able to distinguish and to be able to
exactly
understand what's happening is
before they get there.
Right, before they. But there are some incumbents who are running for re-election that will have opponents as well. So and so if you have, say, a Democratic a person sitting in a position now, and then they have a Democratic opponent, then that sitting person could lose their seat to a new person. So
gotcha.
That's what's at stake now. Okay. But there is and has been a lot of discussion about just a lot of the advances that were made in Harris County for options to vote, like a drive-through voting and 24-hour voting. The Texas legislature struck all of that down. Right. And so that is gone. And they talk about it in terms of voter suppression. A lot of people who were wanting to vote by mail are, for whatever reason, having their applications turned around because it's not complete with all of the information in order to actually vote. So I think it's very important for young people to look at what's happening. And these are roadblocks. These are roadblocks that were in place during the time when my parents were coming up. I remember learning about my uncle who had a business in a small town. And when he went in to vote, to register to vote, he was beaten because he wanted to exercise his right to vote. And there was a newspaper article written about the fact that he was beaten, and there were 3 other persons with him that were actually all beaten because they wanted to exercise their right to vote. So actual roadblocks in that instance, as with my uncle, and virtual roadblocks today, which eliminating a lot of the advances which were already in place that are now rolled back. Right. And it's very important for people to understand that if it wasn't important, why is it being taken back? And as Americans, as Texans, these are our rights. And if we don't stand up and speak out, that's also saying something too. Mm-hmm. So not voting is saying that I don't care. Mm-hmm. Do what voting, you want to do. Yeah, is also saying, here's my voice and I'm at the table. And I know everything that people will say, well, politicians may say this thing and do something. It's not about the politicians only. It's about you and saying, you know what? I have done what I can do to voice the way I feel about something. And it matters to me as an American, as a Texan, to be able to have my voice heard. And why should I give that up? Why should I let someone take that away from me?
That, and then thinking about we've had time to think over these past few years with so many things happening, what people before us fought for, all the things that they went through to get us to this point to where we do have the right to do these things.
That's right. That's right. And running for judge was something that took a lot of thought to do, because I had built a practice and was regularly practicing in 21 counties and between 2 states. I had a thriving office. I had just completed a renovation project in my building, was expanding to 2 other jurisdictions.
Oh, wow.
For a 3-office firm. But I saw the need, and I couldn't just point and say somebody ought to do something about it.
Yeah.
And not see the 3 fingers coming back at me saying, Laurie, what are you going to do? So each one can reach one. Each one of us can do a little bit of something. And it might seem that it's not that big of a thing, but the idea that you're here today with your own podcast and you're having your voice heard, you could be doing something else. But you're not. You're here because you're wanting to make sure that voices are heard, dialogue is happening, and people are sharing information. And I think if we look at it that way, we can walk away a little bit better, a little bit wiser, just a little bit more informed about what's happening around us, and with a sense that maybe we can help someone.
Yep. Yeah. And just, because I don't know everything. And so I love when I do have these type of, I call them information workshop sessions, to a certain, but I'm getting informed myself. And so I can pass on, what I learned. Sometimes I feel like, oh gosh, I can't believe I didn't know that. But,
No, I mean, I always say there's never, I mean, all questions are good. There's never a dumb question. I mean, I think that the idea that there's an opportunity to share information, exchange information, that's what makes us better as a community. I mean, even if we don't agree, we can sit down and agree not to agree.
Right.
But we could maybe walk away and feel like, well, I may not agree with everything that they're saying, but I learned a little bit more. And who knows?
Hopefully that person took away something out of my conversation as well.
Exactly.
Do you have any last words?
Well, I would like to just say that we do things differently now because of COVID. A lot of the courts are partially virtual, partially in person. We are thinking about things a little bit different now. There's been a lot of discussion about the increase in crime and all of these things. And I will say, all the statistics show that crime is actually down. Homicides are up. And anytime one person is hurt, that's tremendous.
Yeah.
But I would just say that COVID should not define us. All the things that we've always learned about respecting your neighbor, um, doing unto others as we would have them to do unto us. Just think about those things as we do things a little bit different.
Yeah.
This is a season. Hopefully, people are taking good care of themselves because this is your life. And so in the courts and in just about everywhere that we're doing things, we're doing them a little bit different, but it never hurts to just to think about doing unto others as you would have them to do unto you. I spent a lot of time, it was 29 years practicing criminal law.
Okay.
So I've been on the floors of federal courtrooms, state courtrooms, small towns.
Mm-hmm.
And I've defended and represented people with serious crimes.
Right.
Racketeering, capital murder.
Wow.
So in those experiences, I've learned that people are just people.
Mm-hmm.
They're at different points in their lives. And so people never made me afraid. I'm not afraid of people. What is disturbing though is when the conflict starts to control the discussion, and where there's no longer respect for anyone as they are having a difference of opinion.
Gotcha.
But in the courts, we have bailiffs for that kind of thing if it really does become an issue.
Mm-hmm.
There is a certain decorum that must be maintained, and the easiest way to lose control is to give that control away. Mm-hmm. And that is not something that I am going to do. I am going to be firm, I am going to be fair, but I am watching my courtroom, and I am not about to give over my authority or my voice to someone else and let them take it. At that point, you've lost control. And so a lot of those situations that may show up on social media mm-hmm. is when a person has lost control. And that's from the top all the way to the bottom. Mm-hmm. Because I've always known as a thinker on the floor of a courtroom, the moment you have lost your temper, you have lost the argument. Mm-hmm. You cannot think if you are in 100 different ways. You must stay focused and hit exactly where you're trying to go. So a lot of the things that you'll maybe see on TV mm-hmm. Also could be reenactments of things as well too. So
probably
there's no doubt that a lot lot of reality television mm-hmm. is not played really into reality. Mm-hmm. It's actually planned. Definitely. But for the most part, the courtroom is a safe place to be. Right. And it's designed that way so that people can come in with a difference of opinion. And you'll know at least 50% of the time, someone's going to say I'm right and someone's going to say that I'm wrong. Right. And that is the mark of a good judge, because a judge has to walk in and always be neutral and detached. And the fact that I was a defense attorney or worked in the DA's office, which I did as an intern, should not come into play. I should step back and let the case be presented in the manner in which it's coming before the court, and not bringing in my perspective. Mm-hmm. Lady Justice always has a blindfold on, and there are those scales, and that blindfold is there for a reason. And if I am coming in and saying, oh, I'm going to do all of this, if I'm saying this to you, then I'm also telling you I am not going to be fair. Right. Because we take an oath to defend the Constitution of the United States and the laws of this state. Defend them the way they're written, not the way that Laurie would like them to be written, the way that they are. And if I come in with a preconceived notion that I am not going to follow the law, then I am not being a judge. I am actually being an advocate. But a judge has to sit back and hear the facts for where the facts are being developed. Don't develop them, just let them come out, and then just be fair. Be firm, but be fair. That's my motto.
Okay, thank you for that. Thank you for
Okay.
that. Well, the last thing I want to say is my sister was on. I don't know if she's still on, but Tanisha said hi, Miss Gray.
Oh, okay. Well, hello, sister, and to just everybody that will have an opportunity to watch the
I'm
your
going to
podcast
edit
here.
it out.
And I did want to say that people are invited. All of the courts are open.
Okay.
So people are invited to come in and watch any of the proceedings. They're public proceedings, and especially kids who may be interested in studying the law. I'm always open to inviting young people in to learn about the law, get a chance to meet the lawyers, and see what happens in court.
Well, thank you, Judge Gray, so much for joining me, because again, I know this is such a busy time, so I definitely appreciate you doing that. And I've learned a lot today. So.
Okay, very good. Well, anytime you can invite me back. I'll be happy to come back.
All right. Thank you so much. You have a good evening. Get some rest.
All right. You too. Bye. Take care. Thank you.
Thank you again, Judge Gray, for joining me today and chatting with Trina. So much information. I learned a lot in this 45 minutes. Thank you. And I can't wait to have you back. You guys, make sure that you get out and vote. If you didn't get to vote early, make sure you get out on March 1st and make your voice heard. And also, don't forget to go to youtube.com/chatwithtrina. Like, subscribe, share, and comment. Tell people about Chat with Trina. Thank you. Have an awesome day. And thank you for making the choice to click in to Chat with Trina. Bye.